Family, Brothers, Suddenly Human, Remember Me, and Legacy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing our special Season 4 review for Next Generation. I really just read off like episodes 2 through 6 because I kind of like that little run right there. It's nice names. How are you today, Sirach?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah.
So everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate that. Also, come visit us on patreon.com/the7th rule. We are going to run through every single episode of Season 4 rapid fire. It's going to be like a trailer for each episode, starting with, if you remember this, it's going to be a trip down memory lane, Srock, all the way back to episode 1, Best of Both Worlds. Part 2. Can you believe that was this season that Picard was a Borg?
Yeah. I mean, they ended this last season with a really good cliffhanger and then started up again with this one. It's crazy because it feels so far long ago, right? That he was a Borg. Like so much stuff happened after that that this was just basically this episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
So that was pretty big. I thought that the second one, Best of Both Worlds Part 2, was not quite as good as Best of Both Worlds Part 1. Yeah, 2 was not as good as 1. Part 1 was amazing. Yeah. Part 2 was good. But it also kind of led into episode 2, which was Family. And that was a good one because that was when Picard goes back home and sees his brother and his nephew, and they have the little mud wrestling battle. Remember that? So this was kind of like a three-parter thing. You remember that one?
Yeah, because now that was like him going through that PTSD of having the whole 359 experience and battling it out with his brother over some grapes. Yeah, I remember that episode. It was a Les Landau, Ronald Moore episode.
Mm-hmm. That's a very memorable episode because of that scene for me. I remember that one from way back in the day because I was like, why are they fighting so pathetically? What is going on? And then I finally get it. Oh, I see. They're brothers. They're not actually trying to kill each other. This is okay. And then it got like a lot more endearing watching it as an adult, actually. Speaking of brothers, episode 3 was brothers. That was with Data and Lore. If you'll remember that, he goes to see Dr. Noonien Soong. Data does. And we had a very special guest. We had Randy James, who was like the hand model. He also did a lot of background stuff. But that was a good one because we got to meet Dr. Noonien Soong, who was the guy that created Data.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, I had it at an 8.1. So anything over an 8 is a good episode to me. So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool. So wait, do you?
They were dealing with the emotion chip, right? That was Lore with the emotion. So Lore, this is the beginning of the lore of Lore, right?
Yeah, we met him in like the end of the first season or the second season. But we get to know really their whole family backstory, because we meet his dad and we find out how he was built and why and all these things. It was really cool. And of course, Brent Spiner plays his dad, Dr. Noonien Soong, which is interesting. But then we
By the way, that was a Rick Berman episode too, when the first one he wrote.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Good start. But I didn't know, Sirach, that you write down your overall point system when you're taking your notes. That's cool.
Yeah. I write them down so I can remember what I thought it was. So when I go back for the rewatch, I can know which one to skip.
So episode 4 was Suddenly Human, directed by Gabrielle Beaumont. This was not one of my favorites. This was one but it had a really good conundrum at the end. Remember where we're supposed to decide, wait, should this kid go back to Earth with his human family that's waiting for him, that sent him a little Snapchat video about themselves, or should he stay with the only father that he's really known? So it actually ended up being much more impressive than I expected.
Yeah, wasn't my favorite either, but it did bring up that kind of debate on whether which one is the best way to go. Um, we also had Picard playing racquetball in that episode. I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an interesting episode about the kind of choices that they make on the show.
Yeah, I feel like I was in the minority when I said, actually, I think that Picard made the wrong decision in bringing the kid back, because then I started looking at it from his biological family's point of view, and I was like, if if your son and his wife were killed and your grandchild was kidnapped, and the authorities finally found your grandchild 10 years later, but then said, sorry, we didn't have the heart to rip him away from that guy. I'd go scorched earth on those guys. I'd be like,
Yeah.
get me my
Yeah.
grandchild, you know. So, but that's what's great about this. There's so many ways to view it. I mean, obviously, what he did, we completely understand why he did it.
Yeah, we had the Talarians in that one too.
Yeah,
But yeah, I understand. It's one of those things where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
totally. And then,
Yeah.
and then,
What didn't sell it that hard was that the parents sent the video and didn't really like make it.
No, that was weak. That was lame. That's lame to me.
Yeah, that was lame. You got to, I mean, go show up and
they sent him a Snapchat, dude.
Yeah, like, hey, bro, we miss you. It's been like 20 years. Where you been? All right, hit me up when you get a chance.
If you want, whatever.
If you want to. Yeah, no rush.
Now, but after that, we had my favorite Beverly Crusher episode, Remember Me. And this is a very memorable episode for me. I love it. I think it's great. I think that Gates McFadden's amazing in it. What did you think of it?
I don't remember me. I don't remember.
It was the one where the universe kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and so people on the ship disappeared, and it was suddenly there was 100 people, and then 20 people, and then it was just her and Picard, and then he was gone, and then it was just like this really cool concept of people just disappearing and her being trapped in this universe that was getting smaller.
Yeah, that I did like. Yeah, now I'm remembering. Yeah, it was a great concept. And then fools were just vanishing like on her, so that was kind of crazy. Yeah, that was a great episode.
Mm-hmm. And I can always tell. I was going to say I can always tell when Sir Rock's going to like an episode, because this could have easily been a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, exactly. That's my metric right there. As soon as you said that premise, I thought, oh, Twilight Zone.
Totally, because it's true. It could be on the Enterprise, or it could be anything. It could be on this generic sci-fi anything.
Yeah.
But then next, this episode was directed by Terry Matalas. Oh wait, that's a different Legacy. This one is
I had A+ for Remember Me. So yeah, there's my A+ I gave it.
That's awesome, man.
So yeah, it was a great episode.
You kind of write like comic book writing. It kind of looks like stylish, like I'm looking at a comic book there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, sometimes it does look like a comic book. Yeah. That's because I grew up reading a whole bunch of comic books.
Love that stuff, man. So yeah, Legacy was next. Okay, this is when
The Legacy, right? Was it The Legacy?
Just Legacy, I think.
Just Legacy. Okay.
This is when we meet Tasha Yar's sister, and remember, she flirts like crazy with Data, and Data starts to fall for her, and then he kills her.
Yeah. Tasha Yar has really gotten a lot of tribute for a character from the first season, right? We're 3 seasons later, and her storyline is ripples throughout this show, which is very good. I think that's a very honorable way to pay homage to a character that gave her all. and was so liked. But yeah, Tasha Yar.
You know what I'm
I
realizing?
remember.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just was going to comment on her sister's hairdo, but yes, I remember that. Ishara Yar.
Yep, that's the one. Um, I knew that the beginning of season 4, those first couple episodes is, like the episode called Family and the next one is called Brothers, that this was a very family oriented first few episodes. But now I'm looking at it, I'm
Yeah.
like, it really stretches out for like 7 episodes because you have family, you have brother, you have suddenly brothers, you have suddenly human, which is about this guy's family and him going back to his family or coming with his new family. You have Remember
Yeah.
Me, which was her family's disappearing, and her son is who came up with the thing to bring her back. Then you have Legacy, which is about family. Now the next one, episode 7, is called Reunion, where Worf sees this lady again, Kalar, who he had a child with, and he meets his new family member, Alexander, his new son. Every episode's about family. So what do you think of Alexander?
He was all right. He was all right. Was this the episode where the mom gets killed in front of him? Yeah, that was kind
Yep.
of super sad. That bloody scene and stuff. Yeah, I remember that. That was stood out. This was a Jonathan Frakes directed episode.
Yeah, he's like, Dad, Mom's got blood wine all over her face.
He was like, "Look at it.
Yeah.
Stand here and look at it." I'm like,
Creep.
what?
Yeah, Worf, maybe you shouldn't be a dad. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
But we had a great guest, Mr. Robert O'Reilly, joining us that day, which was a lot of fun because Gowron was in that episode. Love that dude. Not the last time that we had him as a guest this season.
Yeah.
But speaking of guests,
actually drew a picture of him. It's called Gowron Smiling.
That is spot on. Gowron the Muppet.
Yeah, Gowron the Muppet, baby.
So the next one, we also had a special guest. Great find. Christopher Demetral, Future Imperfect. Christopher Demetral played that cool kid that was playing all these weird mind games with Riker. That was him. We caught him in, was he New Mexico or Arizona? I think he was in Arizona, maybe. And anyway, great guest. Trippy episode.
Trippy episode. Was not the most standout of them all, and actually a diversion away from the family stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the first non-family episode of this season, right?
You're right. Yeah. And then we had Final Mission after that, which is when we lose Wesley Crusher, unfortunately. He goes off to Starfleet Academy. Remember, he's like, you need to listen to Captain Picard more, or whatever like that. Like, you get you somebody that gives you the wingman status like Wesley Crusher does, because Wesley Crusher totally defends Picard's honor in that episode. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, we used to call that teacher's pet. He went way too hard on that, but yeah, Wesley's exit, was kind of the natural progression for his character for where he was going. He's moved on, he's gotten the training and the experience, and now it's time for him to go through the whole Starfleet protocol. Yeah, it was okay to say goodbye to him.
Yeah, I had one of the most beautiful moments that we've seen so far in 4 seasons to me, which was when Picard thinks he's dying and he says, "Oh, I envy you. The adventure's just beginning." And that was it was beautiful. It was sold so well. An aging man that thinks he's dying.
Yeah.
And he's like looking at you like, wow, your adventure is just about to start. I envy you. That's beautiful.
Yeah. It was also a lot. We've seen the growth between the Wesley and Picard relationship. Picard started off pretty tough on Wesley, and then we saw towards the end he was really rooting for him. So that was a good arc for their storylines.
Yeah, episode 10 is The Loss. Oh, this was the one where Deanna Troi loses her empathic abilities, right? So
okay, yeah.
Yeah, that one was It was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. I was a little. I mean,
hey, they can't all be home runs.
they can't all be home runs, but you have empathy because I guess that was something that it's one of her senses, so it's like losing one of your senses. I just felt like it was a little stretched out and exaggerated.
But it was followed by one of the best and quintessential Star Trek episodes. So good. I remember at the beginning of the season, I successfully predicted that Jason Oaken's favorite episode was this one, Data's Day. Because I know Jason Oaken. I'm like, I predict your favorite is Data's Day. He said, yeah, that's one of my favorite, or that's my favorite. And he named one other one, but it's a great one because the Borg aren't attacking, the ship isn't blowing up. We're just following Data on a regular day, and it's just really fun and interesting and charming.
Yeah, he's the lifeblood of this show. We see pretty much everything through Data's eyes. I feel like he's, the person the audience relates to, or at least to watch him unfold these experiences. So I think through his lens is where we really get a lot of entertainment. So Data's Day was a great episode, yeah.
And then we have The Wounded, which was a Cardassian actually played by Mark Alimo that was not Gul Dukat. So that was fun to see him, and he had like this weird head thing that he was wearing, and that's mostly what I remember from that episode. We got a little bit more Keiko O'Brien, which was fun, and we dealt with Chief O'Brien's racism, which was really interesting because Star Trek's not afraid to go deep sometimes, and this time it did. And he and his buddy, I forgot the captain's name, but they don't like Cardassians, and they don't like them a little too much. You know what I mean? Even though they went through a lot, but there's some PTSD there too.
Yeah, and that's just an example of Star Trek talking about themes that we have, to deal with here in present times and taking it into a different context and, talking about it. Um, sometimes, sometimes you can sense people's hatred for different species. I think Worf is another one that kind of hates. What does he hate?
Romulans.
He hates Romulans, right? Right.
Yeah,
So there is this kind of racism that goes on, which is actually part of any integration of any kind of cultural integration. When you have that, when you introduce a new culture into an already existing environment or an alliance of some sort, there's going to be a time of adjustment. There's going to be a time of people facing these kinds of prejudice and racism and, being scapegoated for all kinds of things. So it's really real, and I think Star Trek did a great job of talking about it in this episode.
The final episode of the first half of season 4, Devil's Due. This is a very memorable one for me as well from when I was a kid because it shows Ardra, this alien lady that's pretending to be the devil, coming back to collect what is owed her. And it just has a really interesting theme of like, hey, anybody can pretend they're a god if they have superior technology and visiting, a race that doesn't have that technology. Really good one. Really good episode.
Yeah, and Picard really, from my memory, kind of shines in that episode because he's the voice of reason and logic, where other people may have been convinced that, hey, this person is not to be messed with. Picard was super skeptical. He was like the magician watching the magic act, saying, "No, there's a trick in here somewhere. I'm not buying it. This guy's not really invisible, or
he's not really slicing a woman in half."
Right. Right. So that was well played by Picard.
Yeah, good stuff. We're already to the halfway mark. Let's take a break and come right back for the other half on the Seventh Rule. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Seventh Rule with the game changer, Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
No trivioids, everybody. Probably happy about that. Episode 14. Oh, this is a good one. Clues. This is when they wake up and they're missing a day. And they kind of start piecing things together. Oh, that's such a fun and interesting
That's one of my favorite episodes.
Must have been great to write. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes. And now, obviously, Data was also the catalyst in that as well. He was the main guy doing the cover up of the crime scene, essentially, to make it look like nothing had changed so that they wouldn't investigate this circular loop of death that they were caught in, right? I love that episode. Clues was great.
Me too. Memorable episode. I liked it a lot. Very happy with it. Not a lot to say. No notes. Good stuff. Then we had First Contact, which has a movie of the same name, but they're very different. There's BB Newirth in this episode, memorably. And what I really liked, and this was also written by Mark Zicree, our pal, but this was also a very memorable episode for me, watching it way back in the day, because it kind of gave that thing of like, what if aliens were visited, but the powers that be didn't think that we could handle that information. And so they hid that information from us because they were afraid of how we would react. And I was like, whoa, bro, that's heavy.
That's probably what's happening. Yeah, that was Riker. Was Riker the main?
Yep.
He was the guy that was kind of discovered while they were doing surgery. Another great episode. It kind of reminds me in some type of way of, this is a loose correlation, but it reminds me of Little Green Men. Because
absolutely, yeah.
Right. In Little Green Men, you've got the Ferengi actually, being the cause of the Roswell. And this is the Roswell incident on another planet, essentially. That's what it is.
Yeah, good point. We also have Galaxy's Child after that. This is where Geordi gets to meet Dr. Leah Brahms, the girl that he was in love with, the fake holographic lady, but now he meets her in person. Well. And he was just such a train wreck, that poor guy.
Yeah, that was terrible. Terrible. That was when he got exposed for having a program that wasn't, I guess, fully authorized.
Yeah, enough said about that. Just when you said exposed, I was like, thank God he didn't do that. Jeez, but that's the next step practically. But look, the next one is, tell me if you remember this one. Where are you? I have to show you something. It was when Deanna Troi,
the floating
Deanna through space. Yeah,
that's enough said about that episode.
Yeah, but everybody remembers that. Nobody remembers
the reenactment really was better than the episode, right?
Yeah, nobody remembers really anything other than that part. But actually, we had a really good guest, if I remember correctly, for that one. We had Rosine Ace Hattem, who did stunts on that episode and a bunch of other episodes. She was really cool, and she called us in from a windy day in New York, so we're really happy to have her. Yeah, big shout out to her for that. Yeah. Up next was the nth. No. It was Identity Crisis. We had another guest for that one. We had Michael Westmore joining us. This was when. Is this when Geordi turns into all those weird colors? Yeah. He turned into the black light varicose vein alien, remember? And we had Michael Westmore come on. He had technical difficulties, but he gave us a lot of secrets. That was a fun one.
Yeah, that was a fun one. It was a great makeup job. Yeah, that was a great episode. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it.
And we love
horror, a little on the horror side, but it was great.
That was one of those episodes that I had only watched Next Generation a few times way back in the day. And I saw that episode 3 times. I saw that episode 3 out of the first 5 episodes. It was the weirdest thing. I'm like, how do I keep seeing this episode? How's this possible? It was weird. So I kind of had it out for this episode. I kind of didn't like it. I was like, oh, this episode, I hate this episode. It wasn't bad. Next was the Nth Degree, the one I just mentioned before, which is when Barkley becomes a super genius weirdo and takes over the ship from the holodeck. Remember that? That was pretty cool. Our second Barkley installment.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, how much we love Barkley. You know, he's a great character. Very good acting in that episode as well. He, you know, really showed us a transition from the beginning of that episode towards the end when he became that super genius. He was great. He was great. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Me too. Love that guy. Next, speaking of love that guy, we had a guest joining us by the name of Ira Stephen Bear for the episode Cupid. This is another very memorable episode, iconic episode. The most memes in the history of memedom in Star Trek come from this episode. So many great lines and funny moments. Ira's awesome. You're going to remember this one forever, I think.
That's the I'm Not a Merry Man episode, right?
That's the one.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, you know, Ira loves to infuse his reading proclivities into his episodes. So whenever he gets a chance to, you know, throw in some Alamo, the Battle of the Alamo, or, you know, any kind of thing, like, you know, this one I guess was more like a Robin Hood theme.
Yep.
But yeah, he's obviously, you know, loves to tie in these themes and make episodes about it, which is great. It was a good episode.
It's the Robin Hood episode, all right. Then next is a lot of people's favorite episode, certainly of this season. People love the Drumhead. This was when there was that retired admiral lady that was kind of coming down hard on Picard, and she really had like a vendetta, a personal vendetta. Her dad was a judge and all this kind of stuff. What was her name? Admiral Sati, I think. Let me see. Something like that. Anyway, yeah, Admiral Nora Sati.
Yeah, she had a satitude. But yeah, I remember this episode. She actually was questioning Picard and, you know, all of the decisions he had made, and was really just putting a microscope on him.
Then we had Half a Life, which Melissa famously said is her favorite Luoxana Troy episode. Luoxana Troy meets this guy. He's supposed to die because everybody in his race dies at 60 years of age or gets put to sleep or whatever it's called. This was a Les Landau episode. We also see our friend Tracy Coco prominently featured, and we see Michelle Forbes with the funny hair coming in. That was fun. Remember that one?
Yeah, I remember that the late great Major Roddenberry really gave us an emotional performance in that episode. I remember her really being good, especially towards the end of that episode, where she kind of, you know, accepts her role in this person's life and doesn't try to influence it, but just accepts his decision and what he wants, and she decides to stand by him. I thought that was a great episode. She played well in that. And I always like her better when she kind of plays less of the character and more real feelings and
more of herself.
More of herself, yeah.
Yeah. Then after that, we had, this was a funny one, The Host, which is like we meet the Trill for the first time. The Trill, then we're like, wait, that's a Trill? I could have sworn a Trill was something else, but that was an interesting one.
It was interesting. Directed Marvin Rush. Yeah, I remember that. It was good because it gave us the Trill, which eventually becomes a great storyline. And it's, you know, the Trill in general as an idea, as a concept, that a host is inside of a body and is able to carry these memories down and so on and so forth. I think that is great science fiction. You know what I mean? That's great science fiction writing when you can come up with a species that has this kind of characteristic in it, right?
Right. It was really smart.
It was smart. It's a great idea.
Then the next one was The Mind's Eye. This one was kind of weird. It was kind of all over the place, but it was David Livingston's directorial debut. He joined us as a guest. Unbelievable that this was his first directing job, because it was a hard one to direct. It was very complicated. There was a lot to it, and he just jumped into it. He dove into it with all kinds of different shots and dollies and ideas, and it was amazing what he pulled off, I thought.
Yeah, this is the Manchurian Candidate, and
Right.
David approached it with that mindset and actually mentioned that he copied a few of the shots. Specifically, I think he said the killing scene of O'Brien inside of 10 Forward was one of the recreated shots, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So, but yeah, this was I actually gave it a 9.1. I thought it was a great episode.
That's awesome.
It didn't get that, unfortunately, but I thought it was a great episode.
Me too. Much better than I thought it was going to be. Really loved it. Then we had In Theory, another Data episode. This lady falls in love with Data. She's on the rebound.
In theory.
And yeah, in theory. And Data's like, okay, well, sure, I can do that. And then she eventually realizes, wait, this is all just a program to you. You know, it was a great lesson. It was a great moment. It's something only Star Trek can deliver. Another memorable one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this episode highlighted the fact that Geordi has no relationship advice for anybody asking. So I think that's what I walked away with.
Yeah. Don't ask Geordi, man. He's like, bro, don't, come on. Don't ask me. You know.
He's like, you saw my episode, right?
Yeah. Then lastly, we had Robert O'Reilly joining us again because he played Gowron, and this was the episode Redemption, Part 1. Really crazy, really interesting. We got a hint of Tasha Yar at the end there. Mind-blowing.
Another Ronald Moore special. You know, Ronald Moore loves battles. He's
and
probably
Klingons,
the best at writing Klingons and Game of Thrones, gamesmanship, and all of that stuff. He's really good for conflict and conflicts of interest. He's really good at writing this kind of stuff. So yeah. Was this also a guest that we had on this episode, Gowron?
Yeah, Robert O'Reilly. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that too.
We love that dude. Hopefully he'll come back again. We love having him. Super great guy. Okay. Yeah. Boy, we flew through those. That was a lot of fun. But here's what we want to do. Speaking of a lot of fun, we'd like to give a very special thanks before we get to the free-for-all and really hammer out some hard-hitting questions. We would like to give special thanks to some people called Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom T.J. Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Moeller, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, My Live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manasfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, we'll be seeing her soon, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, Chris Sternett, Greg K. Wickstrom, and of course, Jason Oken and Chris Garris. All right, everybody, stick around for the free-for-all. We're going to get some hard-hitting questions. On the other side, we'll be right back on the 7th Rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton. This is the free-for-all with Melissa Longo. Chris Garris is hanging out somewhere in Texas. He gets startled easily. Carrie Schwent, a.k.a. Crafty Bear's got like every single episode behind her, it looks like. A lot of ships. We also have a trio of Faith Howell, My Live in Tokyo, and the return of Tierney C. Diekman. Allison Leach Hyde reminds us all, very importantly, to be kind. And Chris Garris drinks chocolate wine because it's like drinking chocolate.
Chris McGee drinks
chocolate wine. I'm so sorry, Chris McGee. Only 2 Chris's and I couldn't do it. All right. No IMDb score for this one. A lot of people say this is the best season of TNG ever. Do you guys agree with that?
No, they gotta pass the bong
thing seriously.
I hope not.
A lot of
I
people
do have
say
the
it.
average score if you're curious.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's hear it.
No doubt.
1.58 overall.
Pretty good.
Is that higher than the others?
I didn't have time to check, but between now and the roundtable, I'll check.
All right, that sounds good. Well, let's
Pretty good.
go to Melissa Longo here. Melissa, I think you know maybe where we're going with this. Can you name your 3 favorite episodes? That Chris Garris is like, this sucks. I'm out of here.
3 favorite episodes
Of this season.
Go with
And why? But only 3.
3. I'm gonna go because I'm looking. I've been looking. And I'm gonna go with hopefully some that people aren't going to mention. One would be probably Reunion. It was wonderful to see Kalar and be introduced to Alexander and see Worf become a father and yeah, I really liked that one. The Half a Life. As depressing as it was very endearing, and my favorite Lowaxana Troy episode, because it's the most real that we see her, the most honest that we see her. And the third one, I'm going to go with, I don't know, I'm looking here to see which ones, because there's so many good ones that yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go with I don't know what the third one is. I'm gonna say Remember Me, because it was a strong Dr. Crusher episode. And we need more characters driven episodes with Dr. Crusher and Deanna Troy.
I love Remember Me. That's definitely my favorite Dr. Crusher episode. It's so good. Thanks very much, Melissa Longo. Cool shirt. Chris Garris out in Corpus Christi, possibly. You have 3 favorite episodes.
Well, I had no idea what we're doing today, so I've been sitting here looking. Luckily, I've seen most of these episodes since, with not being with you all. Definitely Half a Life is going to be up there. Man, Best of Both Worlds. After they, got the Borg. And then there's a third one. Oh my God. It would be either Drumhead or Family. I think I'm going to go with Family. So obviously Best of Both Worlds, the board. We got to see how talk about the most, at the time, one of the biggest cliffhangers ever, at least at the time for Star Trek. Did he or didn't he kill the captain when he shot the board? Obviously he did not. But still, I remember sitting there all summer like, oh, what's going to happen? Hurry up, get here September. Finally did. We got to finish that up. And then Family just, lets us see, the trauma that he really dealt with being Borg and Wolf 359 and all the people that he, I hate to say, killed as a Borg out of his control. And it just, you have to deal with that trauma. I mean, and even as the series continued, he is still dealing with the trauma of being assimilated by the Borg. So, and then obviously, like I said, Half a Life, again, we talked for almost an hour and a half on that episode. It's just, it touches every aspect of aging, and ritual suicide and all that. Yeah. So it was definitely a good one, but And then, yeah, I'm so there's a lot of good episodes in this season. So yes,
Right.
it is hard to pick your three. But those would be my three for now. But next season's gonna even be better.
Is
At
it?
least in my opinion. Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
gonna say that.
I like that optimism.
Mm-hmm. Stay tuned for that.
Uh-huh.
All right, Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear, who doesn't think it's out of the realm of possibility that this is the best episode of TNG. My favorite season 7. Sorry, yeah. What do you think of this season as a whole, and what are your 3 favorites?
It's a very, very good season. I love that the whole notion of family is just a nice, similar across like just the entire season. I have 3 favorite episodes. I will quickly say 3 favorite guests, and naturally being who I am, I did create a limerick for the season. But favorite eps, like Chris, I love family. Picard's family is hysterical, but my heart will always be with Worf's adopted parents, the Rozhenkos. My husband's grandmother was Polish, and the entire time I knew her, she kept her awesome Polish accent. So everything she said sounded just even funnier in her accent. I miss her dearly. So watching that episode kind of makes me think of her. Remember Me? I enjoy that one. Yeah, it's my second favorite Beverly Crusher episode. We have not gotten to number 1 yet, but everybody here who knows me knows what number 1 is. We'll get to that one. But my other favorite is Cupid. I love me some Robin Hood, and I love every time Q pops up. His mischief is just so much fun to watch. My 3 favorite one-off guest stars. We got Chad Allen from Suddenly Human, because I love him from Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Marta Dubois, who is Adara from Devil's Due. She is very, very cool. And because I love 24 in the Shawshank Redemption, I love Bob Gunton, who is Miles O'Brien's captain from The Wounded. He just brings such a awesome level of sternness, but you like him even though he's stern, if that makes any sense at all. And of course, honorable mention for Susie Plaxon and Mr. Eyes, Mr. Robert O'Reilly, and his big bulgy eyes. Bless his heart. But I had a little bit of fun deciding on the limerick. It's sort of a general picking out some fun moments from the season. We battled the Borg, and many did die. Worf got a son when Kayla arrived. Wesley headed off to school. Barclay's brain became a tool. Gowron now wears his new mantle with pride. But it's a good season. I enjoy this season a lot.
I think your limericks excel in season finales like this, or season reviews. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They pop into my head. I got to write them down.
All right. Thanks very much, Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear. All right. Up next, Be Kind, Allison, Leech Hyde to this season. You have a top 3?
I do. Remember Me is my favorite because I am a hardcore Crusher fan. So, of course, that one's there. I really like The Lion's Eye because we got a good Geordie episode that wasn't about him failing at relationships. So that made me really, really happy. And The Wounded, because getting more O'Brien was my favorite. What I love about this season is that we got more character growth on outside of our main 3, outside of Picard and Riker and Data. We got to learn about our other characters, and I really loved that. And some of our side characters, O'Brien, we got more Waxana. We got a lot more Whoopi in more episodes, maybe not, completely on her, but she's in more single scenes of episodes. So I really like that. It's a strong season. Are there some episodes that could have been executed better? The Loss, yes, definitely could have been done better. And I wish they would have, because it is a really interesting idea of, what happens when you do lose something that you rely on so hard. So I'm going to say I think it's well worth not many I skip. And yeah, more Crusher episodes, please.
Totally. Even that one.
And that one's great. I've got something about it
You
somewhere.
got a prop?
I know. I do. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Somewhere in my office, and my office is so messy.
It's all good stuff, though, back there, from what I can see.
Mhm.
Thanks very much, Allison Leach Hyde. All right, Chris McGee, awesome shirt in your own right. That looks like the Cisco family. Do you have a top 3, and did you love the season?
Oh, I did indeed love it. I'm not sure if it is the best season of the entire series, but it's almost there if it isn't. Starting with the conclusion to the best of both worlds cliffhanger and ending with another cliffhanger involving a Klingon civil war, this season is packed with incredible storytelling from beginning to end. The writing, acting, cinematography, hell, everything refines the formula that made season 3 so much better than the seasons before it. So much so that even the few lackluster episodes like Night Terrors aren't really all that bad, in my opinion. As Jason has stated in the past, and it may have even been restated in an earlier segment, this season could easily be characterized by one word: family, because its primary focus was on the character development and exploring the families of many of the main characters. For example, Picard's brother and family. Also from that same episode, Wesley's father and Beverly's husband, Worf's adoptive parents. Speaking of Worf, in Reunion, we see Worf's son. Then in Redemption, his brother, Kern. Data's brother and father in Brothers. Tasha Yar's sister in Legacy. And of course, O'Brien's wife in Data's Day. For the top 3 episodes, yes, number 3, Data's Day, as a matter of fact, a unique review of a typical day on the Enterprise from Data's perspective, elevating the Miles O'Brien character while delivering a tense Romulan story. Number 2, The Best of Both Worlds, Part 2, not quite as good as the first part, but an immensely satisfactory conclusion nonetheless. And my favorite episode of the season has to be The Drumhead, a powerful story that I would argue is even more relevant today. I will say that the some kind ofs and some sorts ofs in the season totaled 22, exactly the same as the previous season.
Oh.
And for the memorable quote of the season, the quote that characterizes the entire season, I think since we went the last 2/3 of the season without him, it's easy to forget him. But I'm here to remind you with Picard's last line from Final Mission: Wesley, you will be missed.
We talked about the Final Mission earlier, and we were talking about when he says, "I envy you. The adventure's just beginning." That was as well good stuff. Thanks very much, the Dark Lord, Chris McGee, bringing light today. All right, we've got a trio. It's like Neapolitan, different flavors. It's a lot of fun. We've got Faith Howell. What's up? What are you doing? Where are you? And what do you think of this? You got a top 3, maybe?
We're in Maryland, and I will say definitely the season has been better than the previous one. So we're on a definite right track here. I spoiler alert without spoiling too much. Season 5. I mean, I peeked at the playlist and I don't see a bad one among them. So just Sirach, get ready for the ride. Okay, it's getting good. For looking back at season 4, there are a lot of gems here and there. I will say my top 2 favorite episodes are probably The Wounded and Half a Life, for some of the same reasons you guys have already said. We do get a lot of great character development. It fleshes out both the universe and characters that we didn't necessarily know a lot about before. We build on Luoxana's character. We build on Chief O'Brien. We get to hear him singing. I mean, still have that on my playlist. how many years later. But I have a new favorite, and I have to blame you guys. Remember Me, not because it's a great episode, but because of our shenanigans. So, friends at home, if you did not watch it, it's
I had forgotten about that. I
Right.
didn't remember that. That was great. All right. Tierney C. Diekman is shaking her head. What do you got for us? You got a top 3 for us?
No, I don't. I don't do top 3s. Not possible.
Okay.
Or follow rule.
top 26.
26. I wouldn't say top. I definitely would agree with there are not a lot of bad episodes in season 5. Season 4, Allison said it very well. There are some that could have been, well, I would stop at just executed. Suddenly Human, the loss. But yeah, some that could have been better executed. I would say some things that are notable to me through this season, and Carrie, you took a much nicer view of a running theme or motif than I did with family, which is evident looking through the list. But when I see through all of these, that stands out to me. And I'm not sure I'd call this a favorite, but poignant in what we know as the people, as some of us that grew up with Star Trek or didn't, but watched it later. And every one of these episodes, Maya had said something earlier in one of our conversations about the lessons that each had, the things that it taught us that we may not have known or had learned more about, or taught us how to understand being a human is a running theme of deep trauma and dealing with it. Loss, both of yourself, of your memory, of your identity, of your friends, of your family, and how it changes you. This is the season that made me really appreciate Loxana's character. That you see Geordi as someone besides just the expectant magician of the ship and his fallibility of just being kidnapped, of Riker with himself, of doing, things a little shady, even if it might just be for fun. But I mean, come on, even alien makeup, even newer. But there are these things here, and we see Picard deal with what he had to deal with. Even when we understand watching DS9, seeing Cisco's perspective, my God, the perspective of all of the people that had to deal with that on the outside, him going back to his family. And I won't spoil, about his family later on, but that is a very human thing. Even Barclay, with the opposite of, there's a big theme of just memory loss and confusion in this, that with my own health in the past, I can relate to, not to sci-fi levels, thank Christ, but it is, he has this thing where he's given all of this, and who wouldn't want that? And then everyone looks at him even more, with more scrutiny than they already did in the society that says that you can be whatever you want to be and you're accepted, and they still don't accept him. There are these themes that run through this, even in the less well executed episodes, that do make it a good season cohesively, but it's a tough season from the end of Best of Both Worlds all the way through to Redemption. But there is a lot that comes out of it. It's just in these little bits. And even Data's Day, I have to love Keiko and O'Brien coming out, because they're both so smart and yet so stupid with each other. And it is just also relatable of they're both acting like idiots because they don't know what they're doing. And then you have Data, who knows what he's doing and everything else. And next thing, he's got Crusher teaching him to tap dance. And final thing to touch on would be with her episode with our first instance of a trill and what we got out of that from Ira's interpretation further on and the new makeup. Another loss. And like with the episode of David Ogden Steers, dealing with loss in a very different way for very different reasons. And just because it isn't the same version of grieving that we're used to doesn't mean it's wrong, but it doesn't mean it's right. And there's a lot that we learned from this season, a lot that it brought through the writing that they just continued to expand upon. So it's a good season for growth, strong, not fantastic. It's not gonna win any bodybuilding competitions, but it'll kick your ass. So good one. Lots of good stuff. My favorite stuff.
Lots of great stuff from you, Tierney. Thank you very much for that. Mai is live in Maryland.
There you go.
I had to think for a second. I was like, wait, shit. Where is she? Live in Maryland. Mai, what do you got for us?
What do I have for you? That's a good question. I think that it had a good start. I thought the season started well. Some truly iconic episodes in it. Some duds. Family's a good example of a story that adds a lot of depth to Picard's character. I like that aspect of that. A couple weeks later, we get the abomination that was suddenly human. And when I say abomination, I refer to the message. I'm not talking about the lighting or the camera angles or whatever it is that are often discussed. Star Trek for me is about the message, first and foremost. Reunion gives us more Susie Plaxton, and she's just incredible every time. Guinan's pithy humor. In her comment to Geordi about Brahms, is that you filled in the blanks, and you had a perfectly wonderful, marvelous little fantasy. And I thought that was a really good little dig and twist in there. Half a Life with the huge performances from both Majel Barrett and David Ogden Stiers. Easily one of my favorite episodes. Performances, message value, food for thought. You just nailed it on every score. I thought the season wound up with more character exploration and left viewers wanting more. So that was I think, a positive aspect of the whole thing. As I mentioned for the In Theory review, I took a moment to do an analysis of the season 4 using the scale that U.S. schools use based on the IMDb scores. And based on that, the numbers, which one's ranked as an A, a B, a C, or a D, it got a low C. So I thought the season as a whole was barely passing, but I thought that it definitely had a lot of growth going on. And I think character development, exploration of the different characters, again, not the main characters, but of all of the characters, was really a strong point for the season, if I'm going to say anything about it like that. Continuing with the analogy, I mean, look, the kids at TNG High didn't have a great school year, but we've been through junior high school, they're into high school, and hopefully their sophomore year is going to be better than their freshman one. I agree with Faith. Season 5 definitely takes a step forward from this, so it'll be good for everybody to enjoy that. On a separate note, I would like to thank everyone who has tuned in for these broadcasts over the past few years. Today is my final broadcast as an associate producer. It's time to move on and do other things, but I do so having made an amazing group of friends here and have enjoyed many extraordinary and beautiful memories with everybody. So to paraphrase my wonderful friend Denise Crosby, it's not an end. There are no goodbyes, just good memories. Hailing frequencies closed, sir. And in the fashion of the iconic Mr. Spock, live long and prosper.
Don't forget to wave too, and we're going to close the door.
Right?
All right, great stuff. Thank you very much, Chris, Allison, Tierney, Mai, Faith, Carrie, Chris Garris, Melissa, for myself, Sirach Lofton, Melissa Longo, Aaron Eisenberg. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We will see you next time, and until then, always remember the 7th rule.